We are to be stewards of the earth, it says. Why does it seem that those in our society who reject God are more interested in a clean environment and protecting the planet and not exploiting animals by eating them than those who do believe in God? If you look in the world, it's the ones that are less likely to believe in God that are very green-oriented. Do we believe as Christians that we should be wise stewards of the planet? Yes. Do we believe that if we are wise stewards of the planet, we can save the planet? No. Is there anything do we as Christians believe that if we work hard enough, if we get the right policies, if we deal with our garbage and stuff in the right way, that we can actually save this planet from destruction? No. Does the fact we believe we can't save it from destruction no matter what we do contribute to an attitude that we don't really need to care for the planet? No. Because it's going to die anyway. No. So what difference does it make? Over what do we have stewardship today? The lesson points out that dominion of the earth was given to Adam and Eve, and so was reproductive ability. This lesson points this out. Are we to have stewardship over our reproductive abilities?
Yes.
Who should have steward? By the way, what's it mean to have stewardship?
Self-control.
Management, governance, authority, responsibility. Are we to have stewardship over, who should have stewardship over your reproductive abilities? Who should have that stewardship?
You.
Okay. What if a religious group came along and told people that women are required by God to bear children for their husbands, and as many as they can by the husband's choice, and they have no say in it other than to bear the children? By the way, there's a religious group that teaches this. I'm not making this up. Would this be a godly thing? What if another religious institution comes along and tells people that they have no stewardship over their reproductive abilities, that is a divine prerogative, and that an individual should not interfere with that by using any type of birth control? There's another worldwide institution that teaches this. Is that true? Or are you, as an intelligent being, to have stewardship over your own body and what you do with your reproductive organs? Who you share them with, perhaps? What if a state institution came along and told people what they could do with their reproductive abilities? What if a church institution and church group started movements to try to get the state to pass laws about what to do with your reproductive abilities? We don't have anything like that. You guys probably don't even know, have ever seen anything like that, have you? I'm just making stuff up. It's like a fantasy island. There's nothing like that exists in the world. Who is to govern your reproductive abilities as God designed it? Who do you think wants to corrupt it and have somebody else take charge of you? Has Satan worked to corrupt the reproductive gift God has given us? Should we as Christians identify the destructive uses of this gift and teach people the beauty and health benefits of living in harmony with God's design? Should we identify where it's been corrupted and show people how God designed it and the beauty of that? Should we do that? And the health benefits of that? Yes, we should. Absolutely. Should we pass laws to force everybody to use their reproductive abilities the way we determine is correct? No. Then why are we doing it? Would it be a godlike act or an ungodlike act to eliminate disease, deformity, and sickness? Godlike act, ungodlike act to eliminate disease, deformity, and sickness. You guys don't seem very sure about that.
Kill all the people that are deformed.
Oh, no, you're not going to kill anybody to do it. You're not going to, if you thought I meant by killing people who are sick, no, we're all sick. No, okay, no, I wouldn't suggest such a thing. No. I'm talking about killing the sickness, not killing the people who are sick. Eliminating disease. So is it godlike or ungodlike to eliminate disease, not people, eliminate disease, deformity, and sickness? Okay. How about doing so by genetically engineering our offspring to eliminate genes known to cause cancer or muscular dystrophy or Tay-Sachs disease. Would using our ability to eliminate such diseases genetically from embryos before they are born be a godlike or ungodlike act? Okay.
Some people say you're playing God.
Who gave you stewardship of your reproductive abilities? When God gave Samson strength, did he control how Samson used it? When God gave Solomon wisdom, did he control the choices Solomon made with that wisdom? When God gave human beings reproductive ability, does he control how we use it? Look at all the perversity out there. It's obviously he doesn't control how we use it. We pervert it and do all kinds of destructive things. How is it that people resist the idea of doing something constructive like this? And there's terrible resistance to this idea.
Because we need the disabled and so on. The feeling is that if you got rid of all the disabled people, that would get rid of other people's need to help disabled people.
What about not merely removing diseases genetically from our children? How about genetically engineering and advantages like increased IQ, physical strength, longevity, resistance to infections, rapid wound healing, eye color, height, hair color? How about if we could genetically decide an embryo and adjust those genes so when they're born, we have actually intelligently designed how we want our kids to be? Would that be a godlike act or an ungodlike act? Ungodlike? Wow. So you think when God made Adam, he didn't intelligently decide. He just randomly threw some stuff together and mishmashed it together and said, oh, I hope it comes out good. He didn't actually decide how tall he wanted Adam to be and what hair color he wanted and how he wanted his circulation to work. He didn't actually intelligently program all this into the DNA, or did he?
He did, but we're not God.
Did he tell Adam and Eve to create beings in their image? Be fruitful and multiply. Did he give them a godlike ability? Does it say that we are like God and we're supposed to act like God? How do you... If we have the ability to improve our children's health and well-being, reduce disease, and give them greater advantages, is that not a godlike act? Yes.
It seems like those are good motives, but we hear about genetically modified food and stuff, and what we wonder is whether the scientists really understand the implications of what they're doing so that they really are coming up with a product
that's a second order question. It really doesn't apply here. The question I'm asking is if we had the ability, not what problems might result if we don't have the ability and we try. The question is if we had the ability, should we do it?
Yes, I would say.
Yes, but you raise a good point that to get there we might cause problems, we might injure, we might cause worsening things. That's a different discussion. I'm skipping over that transition and just saying if we have that ability, should we use it? How about this? Do you think that if Adam and Eve would not have sinned, had stayed loyal, had stayed perfect in Eden, and they were told to be fruitful and multiply in that state, weren't they? That they would have had children, right? But do you think that they perhaps had such governance, as God designed it, over their own bodies that they could with a thought determine all these things I'm telling you by epigenetically altering which genes they want expressed in the offspring they're going to have? That they had that kind of control.
They're messing up because they have the choice and then mess things up.
No, this is before they sinned. This is in a sinless world in perfection. And so they choose, I want my first son to have blue eyes. I want my second son to have different color eyes and so forth and so on. You don't think that they might have had the ability to make those choices? Or it's all random and it's like another hodgepodge, let's see what we get. Yes?
But don't you see the problem with this situation this gentleman addressed, that even if we have some abilities, we do not have ultimate understanding of consequences.
Yeah. Of course.
This is the problem.
Yes, and so right now, if we just do it the way we're doing...
The difference between us and God. He has this ability, so he has this right to do whatever he decided about Adam and Eve, and we don't.
So then why did he give us this ability if he doesn't want us to govern it?
Do you think we have the ability to ultimately understand all consequences of our design work? This is what you're saying?
Did anybody hear me saying that any of us know all things? No. So we don't know the consequences, all the consequences of giving...
How we can exercise the same power?
So we don't know all the consequences of giving a person with an infection an antibiotic. Do we know all the infinite consequences of that? Well, then we shouldn't do it because we don't know the consequences. I can go all day long. Every decision we make, we don't know all the consequences to. You don't know all the consequences of buying those tires for your car versus buying those tires for your car. You don't know all the consequences of that. Should we then not buy those tires? I mean, this type of idea that we don't know all the consequences, so we're paralyzed. I can tell you right now, the Tay-Sachs disease, they're actually making those decisions embryologically now. They're doing that. And brilliant for them for doing it. Eliminate the disease. Make a decision that you have several different... I don't know if you know what Tay-Sachs disease is. It's a terminal disease. They die by 10 years of age or less. They die by 10 years of age or less. All, 100% death. There's no cure. It's genetically driven. And it's an autosomal recessive. So you have to have two bad genes to get it. So if your mother's a carrier and your father's a carrier, then if they have kids, 1 in 4 will have it. 1 in 4 will not have even the gene for it, and 2 out of 4 will be carriers. So the population of people that carry this, if they know that, they can go in embryologically, fertilize some eggs, and then they can pick the eggs that they're not even carriers. And thus, over a couple, really in one generation, if all of them did this, they could eliminate the gene out of the human population. And it's gone. That disease is done.
Yeah. Wow.
But some people argue you shouldn't do that. I think it would be a very godlike thing to do.
What about the person who is born with this disease and you tell them, God made you just like you are?
Oh, this is a great question. It comes up all the time. Because I have patients that come to me and say, well, why did God want me to have bipolar disorder? Why did God make my child with schizophrenia? And this idea, this is a myth, that God creates new life at conception. That is not theologically true. It's not scientifically true. Biblically, God directly created 3 human lives, and only 3. Adam in Eden was sinless and perfect. God created him and breathed him the breath of life. Eve, taken from his side, God created Eve. And the incarnation of Christ, God directly involved himself in when the Spirit came upon Mary. All 3 of those beings were sinless when God finished his work. But God gave them an ability that we've been talking about in here. And once they change themselves and corrupt themselves, they make beings in their image. And so when a man rapes a woman and she gets pregnant, the woman should not turn to God and say, thank you for making a new creation. I'm here today because my mother and father decided to have intimacies at one particular month of my mother's cycle. If she would have done it a month before or the month after, I would be one of my siblings. It wouldn't be me. You get that, right? I have 2 siblings. They're not me, from the same parents. There was 1 sperm and 1 egg that would make me. That's it, that combo. And God didn't make that choice. My parents made that choice. But God sustains the laws of health and the designs that he's written into our genetic code. He sustains the laws of physics and all the energies upon which we operate every day. So we couldn't do this if God wasn't sustaining all of creation and reality. And so you can say God is doing it in a certain way because he's sustaining it all and all the laws, and he's written it into the genetic code. But as an individual, it's because we've chosen those partners at certain times to have children with. So God does not create sickness. He doesn't create disease. He doesn't create deformity. And so kids born with spinal bifida, this is not an act of God. This is a consequence of a creation that's damaged biologically and otherwise from sin. It's about Cain, brother's keeper, in Thursday's lesson. Let me just say this really quick. What does it mean to be your brother's keeper? What was Cain held responsible for? He was not held responsible for Abel's health or Abel's choices or Abel's conduct. Cain was held responsible for his conduct in how he treated Abel. In other words, he didn't pursue the health and welfare and blessings of Abel. He pursued injuring and harming Abel. So you're your brother's keeper, not that you're responsible for the condition of the other person. You're responsible for the way you interact and the way you use your resources in dealing with the other person.